All right. A man who's about to be roasted. This is like asking me. These are asking me to say my last prayers and last wishes. All right, you all know the name of the game. I'm going to be interviewed this morning within the next 2 to 3 minutes. My name is Jimi Disu. I'm so nervous. I wanted to say my morning. My morning is Jimi Disu. My name is Jimi Disu. Welcome to the Morning Digest with Jimi Disu on Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. Today is Friday. Usually anything goes, and now I'm in the hot seat. You won't believe it. I have butterflies in my tummy. I have the pair of Jojo, who I usually call the werewolf, and Kemi Ashekun, the one who tear me to pieces, and their technical advisor is Shegun Agbede, the pundit. So, just before, okay, maybe I should do this. You're only spending 1 hour, right?
I can grill you for the next 3 hours.
Yeah, okay.
You will think you are in EFCC office.
To cool me down, let me read this story. It says, "No, Kalolo, come on, It says, Obasanjo to women, don't limit yourself to the other room." And it says that former President Olusegun Obasanjo challenged women to take active part in national politics, noting that women have greater roles to play in national politics than to be relegated in the other room. And it says, those men, let me start from this paragraph. In this country, more than 52% of the population are women. And what do we do with that? That is one power you can use, voting power. What do we do with it? For women for women is important, but it is not enough. If we rely on women for women, we shall not get there. We have to use women for women and use men for women. Those men are yours. If everything fails, use talk. If everything fails, use pillow talk, pillow argument, and pillow persuasion. And there is a limit to how long you can go without you align them and so on and so forth. I just found it quite amusing to bring that up. Okay, we're ready to go. Let me read out the number. Okay, Jojo, since you are going to do better do your job. Read out the numbers for people to call in.
All right. The show this morning isn't actually Morning Digest with Jimi Disu. Yeah. It's Morning Digest with Jimi Disu on the hot seat.
It's the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
It's the same thing.
So why have you been? You've not
Jimmy, why are you sweating?
Your usual self. You're sweating.
I'm not sweating.
You are shaking. You are fidgeting. Don't worry. It's a Friday, and we will try and take it easy on you. But you'll have to answer some questions.
You can't look. I cannot be intimidated.
But you look intimidated already.
Amy.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
You're acting subdued all of a sudden.
Don't be my about bomb me.
All right. If you want to be a part of the show, the numbers to call are 0809-191-3913, 0809-222-0913, or 0809-234-5913. On Twitter, you can send your message to @Jimi Disu, @Jimi on Twitter, or @Lagos Talks 913, or both of them, and your messages will be read on the show. Yes, once again, my name is Joseph Faulkner, and I'm with.
My name is Oluwakemi Ashekun.
You see, this is the beginning of Ote. You know, when the conspiracy is going to start, all this while, she's been calling herself Kemi Ashekun. When you now ask her, she says, Oluwakemi, she has added God. She has put God into the matter.
Now, you need to allow us to do our job.
Exactly.
So just be the interviewee. Okay. Just sit down and enjoy the ride. So, we're going to start this way. They're going to start this way. Now, one of the things, yesterday I put it out there that, you said it on the show already, you put it out there. A lot of people want to know your story. First of all, for starters. Journalism, was it a choice for you? Did you mistakenly,
what informed that choice?
Or it was forced on you somehow? What informed your choice?
Nobody can force anything on me. That is clear. First of all, I had very liberal parents. I come from a Muslim background. I ended up becoming a Christian. It wasn't an issue. So I had very liberal parents. And I had shown a flair for journalism right from primary school. When I was in Corona Yaba, I was part of the school magazine. Remember that, it was like a British curriculum. So you were trained very, very early. One of the books that I read in primary school, I ended up reading again in university. And I used to harass my classmates that what you are struggling to read now, I read it way back. So I'd always been involved in something journalism, or the other. When I got to the Methodist Boys High School in Form 2, I was invited to the editorial board of the school magazine way back then. In our school, we had a school magazine. I don't know about others. Don't know if others.
Most schools back then had school magazines.
My school, the Methodist Boys High School, had a school magazine. I don't know if you call it had because of then when I got to Form 4, of course, I started debating for the school. Now, I also remember then that, you wouldn't know because you probably were not born. Also remember, I'm trying to intimidate you.
No,
also remember,
you can't.
Also, okay, let me tell you that there was only one radio station in Lagos, NTA Channel 10, and then WNTV. Television station. Yes, there was only one then, NTA. And I used to appear on, NTA a lot, doing debates and things like that. Right from Form 5 and then A-levels. Immediately I finished my A-levels, I went to work at the Daily Times, albeit for a short time with Kola Odenye, Kolia Luko, and so on and so forth. And guess what? I handled the sports beat for a while under the late Tony Makonju.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And SB. What I remember most about SB is SB would put a packet of cigarettes on his table. You walk past and you pick one and go. Say SB. And then go on, yeah. Let me quickly add that the journalists of that day, even in the social whatever, was quite different. The whole idea was I would resume sometimes in Tony Makonju's house. That's my ogao. So the whole idea then was that as a journalist, it was fashionable for you to smoke and drink.
Okay. Yes. You've been in the media for about 30 years now. What are some of the things that have changed?
Is it about 30 years? Calculated
more than 30 years. More than 30 years. Yes. What are the things that have changed? The media then and the media here.
Now.
Yes.
What has changed?
No, I wasn't a broadcaster.
Well, okay,
media.
What has changed?
Because I didn't start broadcasting until when I started the discourse. I'm not a trained broadcaster, But so you're asking me what has changed?
Yes.
A lot has changed.
Like
in fact, the people I met on ground were thoroughbred, trained journalists. I think maybe the generation slightly before me were the first set of graduates that just joined journalism, because I didn't study journalism. I did English. But that's because, let me confess, I couldn't get enough points before you asked me. Enough points from A-levels to get into mass comm department, so they threw me to English. Fair enough. A lot has changed, just like everything has changed in society. I mean, when I think of one of the things that hurts me, when I think of my first job, in the Punch as an assistant editor, within 1 or 2 months of working, I'd gotten official accommodation. I had a car, young boy under 30, I remember the day I first of all got my car. The first place I rode to was Alaba to go and put in one bed, stereo set, and so where I'm going is that we were well looked after. The salary was enough to take you home and back again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could almost make 2 trips back home with the salary. You had savings and so on, and therefore I started my work with a lot of pride. And usually this brown envelope syndrome, for example, it didn't mean anything to us. Nobody would insult you, We were well taken care of. And we were devoted. That's the most important thing. When I remember myself, Komiademi Louis, Tunji Ladna, all of us, all of us were all devoted. I remember when we all shifted to the Vanguard. When Samamuka started, a lot of us took a drop in pay. Took bye-bye to the official car, bye-bye to official quarters. But we were so bent. All you would hear us talk about is story. Do you have the story? This story, that story. We're all devoted to the job. But like all things in society, things have changed. Life has changed, and it's a pity. But you cannot insulate the environment from the profession. That's why you have even those who knew the police in the 60s. The police were not this bad. They wear the uniform, starched with pride. If you said somebody, I think that Louis Edet, there was one policeman. It was Adeola that was called the flying policeman. He had this big BMW bike, and it was a real, they were fairly well remunerated and so on. But look at what you have. So it's not just journalism that has gone the other way.
Okay, now you talked about being on different beats, all through your journey and all of that. At some point you did sports. At what point did you become a social commentator?
You see, the thing, the journalists are chosen, not made. I think it's a calling. It's a calling, and the problem I had was I just couldn't get myself out of the news. I had to move to the corporate world because I kept looking at the future, and I said to myself, "There's no way I'm going to go far with this job since I'm not going to be doing deals or getting brand envelopes." So I moved to Lever Brothers, way back then, and so that I could quickly get myself together, get a housing loan, and settle down. But my mind and my body and spirit was still in the newsroom. It was in the newsroom, and so when I found myself walking outside the newsroom, any small invitation to comment on social issues in any of the media, I quickly took it up, and I took up. I think my first full attempt was I was doing I was commenting on channels. They called me quite frequently, and then TVC was every Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
What drives you?
What drives me? How?
Yeah.
I'm not a car.
What motivates you? What keeps you going?
Let us be serious. So people at home won't think you're talking to a 504. No, what motivates me? Like I told you, I think it's. I don't know what it is, but I think it's a calling. I think it's a calling, and that's why I suspect people say I do my job with so much passion and whatever. If it were not a calling, it's not lucrative. I'm sure you know that. We're all in the same industry. And also, I think all of us here would have had the potential of doing some other job that would be 50 times more. You don't want to believe some of the offers that one has gotten and has turned down. And therefore, I was amused about 4 or 5 years ago when I started on what's it called now? I'm having a senior moment. And I started on Classic FM. And some people were saying that he's looking for appointment. I just laughed at them. That it's I can't help myself. I can't help myself. I wish I could. I'm doing this job, for example, almost at a pain. Wake up at 3 o'clock, start coming to work at 5, talking till your mouth runs dry till 11. But I can't imagine myself doing any other thing.
Something else. Okay, you have you talked about when you started, people saying you were doing this to look for political appointments and all that. I know you have friends, those you grew up with, some of them you went to school with, who are in politics. Some of them are public office holders. You talk about some of these guys and all of that. How come you have never seen reason to go into politics, active politics?
Let me tell you, one of the things that shaped my life, most people might not believe it. One of the people that shaped my life, believe you me, is Fela Kuti. And I remember one time I visited him and we had a quiet moment together, and he said, "My brother, make I tell you, you must always know your limits." He said when he exceeded his own limit and ended up in jail, and then he now told me categorically, "My brother, I'm not going to go to prison again." And his lifestyle changed a bit. I believe that a man must know his know his limit. You understand? And I keep to that. Whatever. I can't be a politician. People come to my house as early. I remember when I used to do a lot of stuff pro bono for the late Wahab Dosuno. And one day said, "Jimmy," that's where he talks. "Jimmy, Jekarira, come early. To be 5:30 so that we can talk before you go to church," because I had to go to church at 7. We were both living in Festac then. Lo and behold, I got there at 5:15. This typical pair of shoes, different kinds of shoes, were already in front. People were already in his house at about 5:15. I can't live like that. Have meetings till 12, 1, 2. I can't do all that. And then I don't think I'm that tolerant. I don't know how to play intrigues. I'm going to say it the way it is. Maybe as soon as I say something, they'll say, I want something, you know. So let me tell you a joke. Today is Friday. I tell you a joke. One church that I was
on our time.
No, your time, no, but for you to know the kind of person that I am. One day, one church said, Mr. Disu, that you come and address us on Father's Day. I used to attend that church way back, and that's part of my past. So you come and address us on Father's Day. People were giggling. You know, people were giggling that, what would he have to say? Say whatever he has to say, let's hear it. Because they thought that I'm somebody who doesn't know anything about church. Lo and behold, on the day of the lecture, it was part of the sermon. Yes, I got up and read all the responsibilities of a father, this and that. And everybody was dazed. So in my typical self, I said, well, some of you are looking dizzy, and I'm sure you thought I wouldn't have anything to say. Let me tell you, there's no magic in it. Just go to Google. If you go to Google, you see just responsibilities of a father, of a Christian father, and so on and so forth. That is there. So I said it in person innocently. I hadn't put the mic down before one of the pastors came to tell me, "What's so bad now?" I said, "What have I done?" So you shouldn't let them know the source of it. I said, "This is what kills Africans. You never want to pass on knowledge because they were looking at me that I've been inside this go in Israel." So I said, "It's in Google. Google. If any one of you has Google, it is there."
What are some of your high points? What are some of the high points in your career?
The first high point in my career, believe you me, was the beginning in 1982. This is the story I tell you. I had a friend then who was in the army way back then, officer, and out of a sense of adventure, I just started my beetle then and headed for his house in Benin. So that was, I arrived on Friday night. On Saturday night, after we had one or two beer, I used to drink 30 wa. You know when I say somebody correct, Joe, you understand?
Yeah.
So the guy now told me, he said, "Jimmy, you've been running up and down. There's a story you haven't looked at. You see, there was a company, I think there still is, a company called Rank Xerox.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Now, Rank Xerox normally don't sell photocopying machines. They lease them to you.
Yeah.
Then when it's time for the servicing, you call them, they service it and go back. They were thinking that if there was a possibility that Rank Xerox, being an American company then, and don't forget this was Lagos then, that all the cabinet offices and so on, all of them were using Rank Xerox. So he was not telling me that they suspect maybe there's a microfiche that they put inside the
photocopier,
and that it will then photocopy all what you. So as soon as he told me that casually, I headed back to Lagos in a hurry and wrote my story. The headline was Rank Xerox photocopying the photocopy front page. Bam. Lagos then was Lagos, not VIO. This was Broad Street. Broad Street was ablaze. The government panicked. Everybody panicked. Who is this Jimi Disu that wrote this story? You know, and that singular action, unknown to me, just gave Minolta an open way to come and start selling there. And since then, just to stop renting, I started selling. So that was one time that I felt that what I had done had a very strong impact. And I remember Professor Gushe of Xerox saying that, "I just want you to give me the name of the man," because I actually visited
the company.
Yes. And the PR just dismissed it, said, it's all Hogwarts. He didn't know what he was doing.
Did you at any point in time felt like it's time to quit? Did you at any point in time?
What, at any point in time?
Low that you wanted to quit?
It happens almost every month.
Till now.
Till now.
So
but
what are the things that push you to that point?
It's just that over time, you know that this feeling will go. Yeah, there are times because look, it's a very unappreciative job. Now you're getting to the emotional side of the job. Sometimes you think you're even wasting your time.
True.
You know, it's a thankless job. You do it. It's not the money. You know what it's like. We're all in the same thing, so it's not money. And you do these sacrifices. You want things to change, and our people are just not. Instead, what do you get? You find some people who have been completely misled, abusing you for doing your job and expressing your opinion. What people sometimes don't know and should note is that the Jimi Disu that is sitting in his house, putting his feet up and watching TV, is different from the Jimi Disu who is behind the mic.
You know, every time you say this watching TV, people think you watch TV. You
TV
enter his house, he's only CNN every morning till night.
Yes, is that not TV?
He's not TV. He's not TV. You enter his house, he's watching TV, CNN morning till night.
Is that not
I'm just saying.
Before
people will begin to think you watch other channels, it's only CNN you watch.
But talking about TV, how do you relax?
Please let's not take him to how he relaxes yet. We are going to get there. It's not time for him. So before we get to the to relaxation part, don't worry, we'll go on a break in a bit. But before then, now you talked about the media then and now. Let's look at the Nigerian youth. I'm particularly I want to look away from you now and just pick your brains on some of the issues around the society. Now, what do you think is the biggest problem of the Nigerian youth? Do you think the Nigerian youth is lazy?
No.
Okay, so but what do you think is the biggest problem?
But I think the Nigerian youth expels his energy in a different direction. One, they don't have a sense of what they are facing, and I don't blame them because they probably think it's the status quo. It's those of us who had seen what had happened in the past that know the gravity of the situation we are in now. And unfortunately, which is an irony, when we were younger, there was no internet, nothing. Everything you had to physically read. But these days, I discover that the minds of the youth are completely distracted from the realities of the world. And then thirdly is they are too much in a hurry. Too much in a hurry. And sometimes they do things. Let's even take a criminal thing gone bad. Look, you do listen to this. So you've done Yahoo, you've made a hit. Now, instead of you to take that hit, I'm not teaching you crime, but I'm just saying.
I was about to tell you that.
No, but instead of you to take that sum, you shouldn't be doing that. But instead of you to not take that sum and go legit, you take 10, 15 of your friends to a nightclub and go and pour 10 bottles of champagne on their head. Isn't that? I mean, what does that tell you? So you find that there's very, very little deep thinking, and secondly, there is too much anger in the youth, and it's turned them into rebels. But who's going to suffer it at the end of the day? If you sit down there morning till night abusing the generation before you and the leaders and so on and so forth, without spending time to think of how you are going to sort out yourself. That's why usually when Twitter and so on, when I get people abusing me, he's talking from both sides of the mouth and I have only one mouth. He's doing all this. You look at some of these presentations, they are infantile. Let me tell you, even if you're paid, okay, let's even say that you're paid by a party to say that, look, this guy, let's try and see how we can rein him in. Why don't you take him on point intellectually?
Instead of raining insults.
The moment you rain insults on him, even you have not achieved anything.
Yeah.
He even gets more sympathy. You have turned him into some kind of star that he's not. So I believe that the young people, in all essence, really and truly, they need to sit back and think, how can I get out of this problem we're in? It's not going to go away if you abuse people from morning till night. Sure. It's going to get worse if you push the country towards the brink of war. Because if at time of peace you're in this kind of trouble, at time of war you might just disappear. Don't forget, yes.
You mentioned, talking about all these things, talking about how you grew as a journalist and all of that. You keep mentioning people's names of people you worked with, people you looked up to and all of that. Could it be that this generation mentoring is lacking?
That's
or parenting?
Not parenting. If your parents, you see, if people had decided on their own to develop themselves, even if their parents are not there, they'll get surrogate parents. We had a lot of uncles in the neighborhood or people that you would know.
They will beat you from junction back home when you misbehave.
No, not just that. For example, it was one gentleman called Mangboli in our neighborhood who introduced me to Time magazine. And my uncle, my favorite uncle, God bless his soul, A.R.A. Disu of McCarthy Street, the baker. He used to get a subscription of these things. He had the encyclopedia, So I'd go and put my feet up and read. The biggest weapon, and he will tell you, that's why he's been keeping quiet all along. The biggest weapon to deal with the likes of him, that's Agbede. The biggest weapon I'm joking at. The biggest weapon is knowledge. Knowledge. With knowledge, you can do. With knowledge, you can do what do they call these army tanks? What these army tanks can do is knowledge. And it's there for you. And there are no excuses. The world doesn't accept excuses. You either pass or you fail.
You fail it. All right. We're going to go on a break on the show. When we return, we're still going to be talking to Jimi Disu. She's on the hot seat. It's still Morning Digest, even though you are hearing my voice and Kemi's voice more than but he's actually been talking a lot. But we'll be right back after this.
The question just one question.
Steve, my guy.
Charlie, you don't see for my shop, oh.
School get as e be as exams non start.
So when you go come my shop, make you for check out the correct shoes I just do.
Sure, for this age and time, you still dey ask make person call your shop?
What I go do now?
Shey you get MTN line? Just dial *131#. Make you connect to WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, or any social media app for MTN goodie bag.
How that one go help me sell my market now?
Oh yeah, download WhatsApp for your phone first. Then snap the new shoes where you want show me. Put the picture for WhatsApp from your MTN line. Then send them to me. I go choose the one where I like. Come even send the pictures to my friends for school. Make themselves join buy your market.
Oh my God!
Yes, so you fit open another shop on top social media with MTN goodie bag and still get double. With just 25 naira daily or 50 naira weekly, you go get double data to browse Facebook, Instagram, even chat WhatsApp. No carry lasso, enter MTN goodie bag now. Just dial *131*3#. Make yourself come dey get double.
It seems the Russian court can't dull the Nigerian spirit on this fine day. This is going to be a wonderful game.
In the course of a football match, you'll make a new best friend.
Guy!
Have your first argument with him.
Guy, look at yourself.
You don't see him now.
Share your first drink.
One for the goal.
Scream at each other.
They tell you say this one now.
Have a victory hug. And most definitely find new nicknames for yourselves. Because this is Naija, where football lives.
Dissecting the major news stories daily. This is the Morning Digest with Jimi Disu.
All right, welcome back. It's still Morning Digest with Jimi Disu on the hot seat this morning. I'm Joseph Faulkner.
And I'm Kemi Asheko.
Kemi Asheko is in the studio. And then we have Segun Agbede, who has a question for Jimi Disu.
Big share.
Joseph Kemi, I love the way you've not grilled him.
No,
I was starting gently. And that's the way you start gently and you build up momentum. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, Mr. Disu. There's something I have a lot of respect for. Ever before I met you and started radio, I came to broadcasting late in life myself. But there's something I've always sensed, some kind of resentment that you have against me. And I think it's from an incident that happened to you or you. So I'd like you to explain, what was your biggest disappointment when you are a young, let's say teenage, no, not teenage, maybe 11, 12-year-old boy? Can you expand on that? Because maybe that's the source, because sometimes you're very brusque with me, very aggressive. I don't know. I'd just like you to expand on that, please.
Agbede.
Yes.
Agbede.
Yes.
Agbede.
That's 3 times you call.
How many times did I call you?
3 times.
You want to bring up this Igbobi college?
Yes, I do. I want you to tell our listeners so they can understand, Although Methodist Boys is not a bad school, but just tell us the story, please.
Excuse me?
Methodist Boys High School is not a bad school, but,
It's not that it's a good school.
Okay, fine. Okay, it's your show.
No, he's referring to, it was a big disappointment for me. I so badly wanted to go to Igbobi college. But I think that was, looking at the serious aspect of it now, I think those were part of the flaws that we had then with those of us who went to private schools. Because in my private school, the school I attended, Corona, there was a lot of concentration on English, poetry, and things like that. And for some reason, we just couldn't knock it out. A lot of my colleagues had slight difficulties, getting into secondary school. And that's why I'm one of those who disagree with the system now that says that you must pass mathematics before you can move on. If that law had been in place in my time, I'd never have gone past school certificate. I just didn't like anything to do with mathematics. My concentration was in writing poems, all those things. So I went to Igbobi College exam. If I remember, I must have gotten up to 80% in English, but I think in mathematics I got something like 5.
Wow.
But when they showed the result to my mom, I saw tears coming through her eyes. How can the child who has it is something in English? So Mr. Latubosun told Dr. Lyons then that who tried to intervene. He was my godfather and said, and the thing, and back in the day, the interview was 3 days. You come in about 12, your parents drop you at 12 and come back and pick you on Sunday after chapel. And those 3 days I will never forget in my life. There is somebody that I haven't met since then, but his name keeps ringing in my head. I hope somebody listening will know him. He must be close to 70 now. He was in lower 6 or upper 6 when I was now trying to get into Form 1. And he took a liking to me. That he must have been lower 6 because we then agreed that if I did get admission, he was going to be my school father. Do they still have that these days?
Yeah.
School father.
I don't know.
Mother.
We had it when I was there, but I don't know.
Do you have a school father?
No, I don't have a school father, but I had a school mother.
I will be your school father.
I never school.
So the man's name is Mr. Nobolu. I don't know his first name. In secondary school you call yourself by surnames.
Okay.
Yeah. I will never forget him. He was so nice to me, and after I've not seen him since then. He must have graduated Igbobi upper 6, 67 or 68. So if there's anybody out there who I'd love to just see him, sit with him, and so that's the incident you're referring to, and I haven't forgiven all the Igbobians out of envy.
Interesting. Interesting. You talked about Igbobi College. A lot of people are sending messages. They want to know how rascally you were when you were
I was
were younger.
I was a quiet rascal.
Well, you were a rascal.
It is a sense that to the teachers, I was the most quiet human being God created.
But you were a rascal.
But to the boys,
what were some of the things you were involved in that the teachers didn't know?
So that they can come and cane me.
No, most of them will be gone by now.
They will cane you in areas.
Most of them will be gone by now.
No, you just did. I remember in primary school we read this book on the War of the Roses, and then we wanted to replicate it. So we went into the bush, someone the white roses, someone the red, and started throwing stones. And because we had this song, say we won the war in 1964. We won. I remember Tommy Davis, Tawa Sholanke, all of them, and especially Bode Kanu, who I met later in life. I remember meeting Bode about 15 years later. I looked at his head. I said, "So you have this car?" Then he looked at me. He said, "I said my name is Jimi Disu." Yeah, so I was in Methodist Boys School. I was a prefect.
Okay, what prefect?
I was a prefect.
What prefect?
Oh, what prefect? Do you think I went to school the same time with you?
No.
What was your office?
They would give you a position now.
Yes, what was your office?
I was in charge of the library.
Library.
You'll be shocked that from my third year in school, I was also a library prefect till I left school.
Which school did you go?
Fela.
No wonder.
You still talking about school and growing up. Were you ever in a fraternity?
Yes, now you know that's an open. Is open. That there in the open.
I'm
asking you, what fraternity did you be?
I was in the Paris Confraternity now.
How did you join? What informed your joining?
How did I join?
Yes.
What informed the joining? How did you find yourself in the?
Look, I'd always had a rebel streak in me, and in any case, the Paris Confraternity of that time is not the nonsense that a lot of these so-called cult boys are doing now. In fact, it was after I left Unilag that it was banned in all campuses.
Okay.
We just decided that we'd had enough of this nonsense.
What prompted you to join?
Wait now, I'll tell you what prompted me to join. People don't know, for example, that the genesis, part of the paper part of the plans put together to create the Federal Road Safety Council. CORE.
Yeah.
Started from when I was in school, and there was a convite we had in Benin. We contributed to it, and then what's his name, Professor Wole Soyinka got Chief Bola Ige to let the pirates mainly handle that Maja something, just because of the Ibadan Ife road. And I remember every time I see Reverend Bola Oyeledun, I always still call him traffic warden. So it was those were the kind of things we were doing. We were donating blood every year. Bola Oyeledun was one used as a trap. I think Didi Shasha Wantu was also part of those who were in the Maja thing. It was virtually our own initiative, and so on and so forth. Now, what made me join? You're asking. I tell you, I joined twice.
The first time?
No, I attempted to join twice. As soon as I got to campus, as a Kalakuta man, my mind went straight to the Pirates Confraternity because we knew some of the things that they did. It wasn't like now. I want you to get that straight. It wasn't like now with drinking blood, God forbid. It wasn't like now. We did a lot of noble things. And then, of course, some of the friends that I had were also there. Jimmy, come along. So we did that. And I tried. I started in Uniben before they threw me out. And I went to Unilag. So the first year in Uniben.
You went to 2 schools like somebody. 2 universities.
I went to 2 universities.
Yeah, somebody else went to 2 was chased away from 3 secondary schools, 2 universities.
Who is that?
He failed in 2 secondary schools, then finished in the third one. Then he was thrown out of one university and then finished in the second one.
No, I did. I went to 3 secondary schools.
You failed in 2.
You
and Dalo. So I went to 3 secondary.
Did I mention this?
Yes, we talking about. My father has money, so I went to school.
I wanted to curse you.
Why did you attend 3 secondary schools?
Of course, I did A levels now.
Okay, so
I went to I went to Methodist Boys High School. From 1 to Form 5.
Okay, you finished. You did pass.
Wait now. I went to
Methodist Boys.
I went to Methodist Boys. And I didn't have enough credit, so
I failed.
No, but I didn't fail. But I don't want to
you didn't get enough.
Then I now had to go and thank you to Mr. Gbadamosi. He took me in Ahmadiyya College, so I was there for about
repeat your
7 months to repeat, and then did my A levels.
To repeat, and then do your A levels. Which one is the third?
Walomo. By the time I left Ahmadiyya College, I had enough to do A levels and then go to
Compro.
But let me tell you what actually happened, and this young people must know this. That I was an arts student was not in doubt. It was not. I debated for the school. I did all kinds of. and I always came first in English, but for some funny reason, I went and chose science subjects. So physics, chemistry, biology. Where? So when I got to, and we didn't do economics in Methodist Boys High School. So when I got to Ahmadiyya College, this was around, that one, the years were January to December. I joined them around March or so. That is where I met the likes of Tayo Aron, the likes of, what was his nickname? We had his father owned Empire Hotel. Empire Hotel, which was Fela's.
Yeah.
So sometimes we hang out with him, going free and things like that.
So go and do what?
To go and watch Fela now.
You would just need to for the sake of the listeners.
What age did you start following Fela? At what age did you start?
Look at her pointing her finger.
Yes, at what age? At what age?
I think you should tell the guest that he should mind his tone.
Sorry, you are on our show. You need to mind your tone. You are
full and frank disclosure.
But how can
you can't be you are pointing at her. You can't be pointing at her on our show. It is her show, and you have to.
Let me tell you.
Respect her chair.
Okay. Let me tell you that part because it's funny. The first time I ever watched Fela was with my mom.
Oh yeah.
And Fela's sister. I've been following him on record, so everybody. I mean, in our time, Fela was young. Fela used to play at King's College, end of year party then. But the first time that I went to watch
Kula Lobitos, right?
Kula Lobitos. But the first time that I went to watch Fela in a place called Afro Sport, to go and watch Fela in Afro Sport, that was 1971. I went with my mom, Fela's sister, because my dad lived with Fela with the Kuti family. You know, when you live with the principal, I think it must have been rascally, so they go and say that.
So that would be close.
So and he's contemporary of Fela's elder sister, and they got closely knit, and so we're very strong family friends. And so Mama Jimi Diallo Fela Jimi quick. Before there was Jack Robinson, I was in the car. I got into the car when I now realized I was wearing rubber slippers. But I didn't want them. I didn't want them to leave. Because we were so frightened of I was so frightened of my mom. So I sat down quietly in the car like a mouse. Looking
before you are sent out.
And as soon as we entered the shrine that day, Afro Sport, it was as if I'd been to heaven and back. That was the day Gideon Astrop came back to Nigeria from America. And that was the day that Sandra Daniel, that was our first show. That show is in my head like this still as I speak. You're talking of 71. It's stuck in my head. I can replicate it. If there was a way you could open up my brain and put it to video, I can replicate it.
So why how you start following your relationship with him started from records, then to that 71 when you went to Afro Sport and all of that, and eventually you became personal friends with him.
No, everybody. See, the truth is, I like to be very careful so that I don't give a wrong impression. I mean, it's not as if Fela will come to look for me at home, or as if
you had access to Fela.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Yes.
Millions will wonder. No, how come you never smoked weed?
Exactly. Did you ever smoke?
Yeah, did you ever try it?
Did you ever smoke?
Did you ever try it?
I tried it now, and I've said it before.
And what was the experience like?
My life is an open book. I say these things especially for whatever you do in your life. Don't touch that stuff. But I think it is to my credit that I only did it out of a sense of adventure 3 individual times.
Okay.
3 times.
That's all.
How are you sure? You've only told me about once.
What was the first experience like? What was the first experience like?
Ask me questions one by one. I will talk.
What was your experience like the first one? I'm just bothered that you never told me about the other 2 times.
No, wait, I will tell you. The first time was during the Buhari coup. All through university, I never touched that stuff. The first one was the Buhari coup. I had a visitor came in from the UK. Female. Visitor came in from the UK. But actually, it was a rendezvous between her and another friend of mine. Sure, you get. Let's leave it at that. So they were my guests. So my friend now called me and said, I had gone to buy potatoes. Nigeria was beautiful then. I'd gone to Leventis and come back with 3 cartons and Kingsway Ikeja. As soon as the lady now arrived in the morning because we were stuck in the airport by curfew. She arrived in Nigeria Airways, by the way. And then with the long and short of it is, I had my own babe, at that time. So man now tells me babe needs grass. Remember there was going to be a curfew. So I dashed down to Kalakuta to get whatever it is for her. And then babe now prepares 3 doses.
So
that was the first time. As soon as I took the second whiff, I threw it down. It's a pity I can't call my witness then, who was staying with me. I danced for I was sweating. It was as if I don't. That was the first time. The second time, I think, was one day we just stopped to see Fela, and then this Dede. Jimmy, I get something for you. So we went. Then from there we went to somewhere in Oregon. As soon as I sat down, I knew that there was something wrong. If I drink this big brown thing in front of me, add to what is wrong, I couldn't find my way home. Then the third time was when Fela launched Confusion Brick Bone. So we were all there. We were Mr. Shockey. Then we all moved Tunji Ladna, Tony Benson. All of us were there. So as soon as we got into the shrine, of course, we headed to Fela's side where there was J.K. Brima and all these top guns. And then it was out of the blues. When J.K. Brima saw the way I was reacting to the music, he said, Aburu, the one he just planted it in me. 5-10 minutes after, I was on my way home. Quite unusual. I had a problem. That is why I've always said, I always tell my story. So when I tell young people, don't try it. I believe it is an evil spirit. Because especially on the third occasion, it was as if another spirit entered my body. I want to go right.
You go left.
I want to go right. The spirit will tell me to go left. So I started having
conflicting.
Yes.
You became like Paul in the Bible.
I don't know
the things
Paul.
I want to do, I do not.
Do
Those things I don't want to do, I find myself doing.
I tell you, for the kids out there, this is from somebody who has tried it just 3 times. Don't even try it. It's an evil spirit. And that's why I tell my story anytime I'm asked. I've told this story many times. And I said, look, yes, I've tried it, but don't even contemplate it.
Okay, do you with all this about Fela and all of them, do you align with everything Fela stood for?
I had an emotional relationship with him. Even when I felt it was wrong, I always rationalized it. Like during the murder case and the murder case that he had, during the time he was during his case of the Diagmo case, taking money out and so on and so forth. I rationalized it, but I felt it could have been avoided. Even there was a time he was going to be charged for murder. Sonwo, there's a guy called Sonwo.
Yeah.
Why would you beat somebody up to the point of death? And so, not that he did, but it instructed the beating. But the thing that I noticed that people didn't know is over time Fela started changing and he became introverted. When he came out from prison, Fela told me, he said, look, my brother, that was the day he was telling me about knowing your limit. Fela said he didn't even know. It's in my book. Fela said he didn't even know that any government could jail him. That he felt it was impossible that on that day the whole city go scatter. He said he was surprised after they sentenced him. He said when he was going to come out of prison, he imagined a situation where the crowd would be so overwhelming, he would go with the crowd. He said, my brother, even my own people, his own people in Kalakuta, they were giving me black power sign with the right hand, but they use the left hand to cover it.
And so, with all of this, would you Fela almost ran for president in Nigeria? They didn't register his party back then, or
no? I think he just wanted to.
Would you have voted for Fela's president of Nigeria?
Of course not. Because I don't even think he was serious about it. For us in Kalakuta, we were laughing at people outside. Imagine the way the government reacted because he called his house Kalakuta Republic. They were almost going to label it treason. They didn't see the humor in it. Fela, do you know Fela? There's one Igbo man I forgot. I think he's what's his name? His friend. He said he's going to be the Minister for Information in his government. There's a documentary in which the guy even admitted. I knew that it was more of a publicity stunt than anything. Just wanted to just make a point. Fela knew, of course. Fela, people don't know that Fela was a very, very. There's a side of him most people don't know. You walk into Fela's house with your wife or your babe. He said, "My own man be that, madam, please sit down." He offers her a seat. He gets up to greet her, offers her a seat, then asks you, "Do you like ice cream or cake?" Yeah, he had the freezer in his cake or ice cream or whatever. Fela was an ajebota now. Forget all this. Before I started attending his shows, occasionally I went for lunch in his house in Mushin back in the 60s. Anytime Sister Kuti is in town, he said, Fela was a normal middle class person until gradually he changed and got caught in the image he created for himself. Fela was a very smart dude. Very smart. Very, very smart. You know.
On your blog, jimidisu.com, you stated that you know that Nigeria will be great again, even if it doesn't happen in your lifetime. What is your vision of a great Nigeria?
In Nigeria, I met in the 60s when I came back from England.
How do you define that for the young people who don't know?
I don't know what was to use.
You know what's going on now. You know what we have around.
But what
you had then.
Of course
so
not.
How would you describe it for those of us who don't know?
I'm lost for words. Honestly, I don't know how. You know, there are some things in you really don't know how to progress. You know how to express them. But with what we have now, we are not going anywhere, and it doesn't have just to do with the politicians or anything. Even the people, the lack of knowledge of our people is increasing every day. For example, I left Facebook. You can't have a decent discussion and argument with anybody. Back in the day, of course, there was not that much exposure, but it was intellectual discussions. Now there's too much anger in the land. I'm a son of a civil servant. My dad was a lawyer. He was legal advisor in Ministry of Finance. My mom was in Post Authority. My mom was in charge of all the estates of Post Authority. The most you get at Christmas, it wasn't even hampers then. Maybe they bring, Costain will bring a stool for Mrs. Disu. Little things like that. And yet they were able to send all of us to school. Nobody put his hands in any cookie jar or anything. No, it was unheard of. At a time when, even if you are called for questioning in a neighborhood, when I was in Yaba, when the policeman would be coming swinging his baton, like everybody will run for cover. And they said, they go to this house and say, we are looking for Sheikh Magbedeo.
Why Sheikh Magbedeo?
and they're taking you to Denton police station, marching behind you like this, you'll be in front. Such brosses never came back to the neighborhood.
A shame.
It's a shame. Right from where I grew up, from Wakeman Street, from near Adams, all the way to Oyingbo. You dare not miss.
Following up on what Kemi asked you, I listened to your show with Ronke Onodoko yesterday, and she spoke about the death of the middle class. Hearing you speak, even though you're a bit ahead of me generationally, as it were, we had a remarkably similar. Where you went to Corona, I went to Adra. Where you went to MBHS, I went to Igbobi College. Stuff like that.
But you're not like me.
Definitely, nobody can be like you. You're just you.
He turned it against me.
But is it the death? Because values. It's about. I think Joseph spoke about,
parenting, mentoring, values.
I think the parents. Let me tell you, values have changed.
Let me tell you where it started from, and I'm sorry to say this. Luckily, it's a historical perspective, so not many people should feel offended, but it's the truth. The problem started in 1967 when the army came. The social strata changed. When Corona was in the army barracks by Yabatek. That's where Corona was. First of all, it was at Butemeta. Then, how they got that space in the military hospital, I don't know, but that's where we were. Before the coup, you would hardly see a soldier on the street. They were confined to their own space. They had nothing whatsoever to do with the outside world. And therefore, a lot of them were confined even in thought. And to put it much more bluntly, none of us wanted to join the military. At that time, that's the way people perceived it, that it was a place for people who couldn't pass in school, stuff like that. Very few people wanted to join the military or even the police at that time. The moment the military took over, they brought in their own friends and the social strata. And the first thing they attacked was the middle class. Because it was only the middle class that were rationalizing and saying, why should we have military rule? Why should this? Why should that? Look at the quality of the leaders that we had way back then. Nnamdi Azikiwe of blessed memory had a PhD. He went to school in America. I think he went to Lincoln University or something like that. That's Azikiwe. Amadou Bello was a graduate, well educated. If you heard Tafawa Balewa speak, Tafawa Balewa, and he was a simple man. On the south, you had what's the Awolowo. You know, yes, they had their differences, but these were men of quality. These were men of substance. Once we help Tony and Nauro move the motion for independence, go to YouTube, you'll see some of these things. But as soon as the military came, they came in with their own friends and whatever, and the whole. Do you know what it was in those days for them to describe somebody as a cow owner? A cow owner was not. It gave you a particular status, meaning you had to behave yourself. Do you know that? Back in the day, when I remember this, I just laugh. In 1974, I think we were taking a flight from Lagos to Benin. One of us wore his suits. Those were the values. So over time, it's the military. And I'm sorry to say it got compounded under the evil genius. It got compounded. They brought in their friends as contractors and so on and so forth. Money was, and then the new set of rich people surfaced.
Okay.
It's part of the same problem you're having now. I can't remember. Maybe there was, for example, where somebody's identity would be questioned in the 60s. That no, his name is not Jimi Disu. His name is Jimo Brimo. He says he's from the Disu family. He's not. He said he went to Methodist Boys High School. He said no. It didn't happen that time. You had honorable people, the late Bode Tomo, name it. But so what's that?
I'm very sorry. I have to.
What's
Somebody
that?
on Twitter is asking.
Yes.
And people like says, will Fela make heaven? Please ask Jimmy his own opinion.
Yes. I can answer the question. See, let me tell you, the issue of heaven, to the best of my thinking, has nothing to do with Christian or Muslim. That is my thinking. You know, you can't have an argument when it comes to religion. It is the good or bad that you have done. Let's face it, Fela, a few misdemeanors, he was working grass, but he was also a, what do you call it now, for a better society.
He was a musical genius as well.
He was a musical genius and also for a better society. Right, yeah. He was far better than even some of the archbishops and whatever that we have now. I'm telling you, forget the hood. Forget the hood. Forget, after Fela himself said, uniform na cloth na tailor dey sew am. Fela generally had an open mind, to the best of my knowledge. He was not a wicked person. I remember, I think it was Dakwa Delegon also, who invited Fela for a concert, and he had paid, and then on getting to the concert, Fela now looked around and said, where are the big multinationals who he can't see their signs? So the guy now told him that he had to put the show together, and then he then said that, okay, maybe you should come and see me on Monday. I give you a part refund. I thought they were the one. Wow. Fela was a fair-minded person. He was human, though. I must admit that. Back in the day, I didn't particularly like all those little girls that were coming in and out. But, I mean, a man is allowed a few slips, you know. I mean, so...
You know, it's interesting, all these things.
You won't let people call in?
People were calling.
You won't play music?
We've not touched religion. That's why I say it's not your show today.
All right.
So let's go with the flow.
Yes.
We've not touched religion. And you know, it's easy for people to mistake you for an atheist when you talk about
or
Christianity
agnostic
and Islam. First of all, how did you convert from Islam to Christianity? What happened to you?
Well, the truth is that even though I come from a very, very liberal Muslim family, and from a very, very liberal Muslim faith. I remember at my brother's naming ceremony, the Imam asked his wife, said, do you go to church or do you go to the mosque? The woman said, tell us now. She said, church only church. Then the Imam now told him, make sure you take these children to church with you every Sunday. You understand? So Akil Jamaatul Islamiyah, as at that time, was a very liberal whatever, and I enjoyed myself way back then, especially listening to the lectures of Mr. Basil Augusto, who was a Queen's Counsel. By the way, for you to know the tolerance level of religion at that time, even though he was a chief imam, brilliant lawyer at Queen's Counsel, he was a lawyer to the Catholic Church.
Wow.
I mean, that's the environment. So religion, that's why you find, I always say that, look, it's a private affair. You know, everybody knows. You went to, those who went to Mrs. Biobaku's school in Ilukweju, even though Mrs. Biobaku is the first child or first daughter of Basil Augusto and so on and so forth. Liberal. I think the Christians too had their prayers. So that's the environment. So I tried so hard to practice Islam. The mistake that I think was made was that when we were even sent to Quranic school, myself and Yori, Yori Folani, instead of them to teach us about Islam, they wanted to teach us Arabic.
Okay.
So when we go alif, alif, ba, ba, ta, ta, jim, jim, and here were children from various backgrounds. After a while, it just didn't stick. So when did your conversion happen, and how did it happen?
Well,
my conversion happened when that little rat in my house called Bolatito, have my second daughter, whose birthday was a few days ago, walked up to me that day and she said, Daddy, everybody that I meet in church, their daddies come with them. They don't come at Sunday school, but you haven't followed. I don't like it. They're making fun of me. I said, okay, I'll go with you next week.
Okay.
And that's how Bolati told that little rat. That's how she dragged me to church. So I went the first Sunday, the second Sunday, the third Sunday, and she would always come and stand by my bed and pull. Say, Daddy, let's go now. Before I knew it, I started going regularly. The thing that I like is this. This is the part that I like. Of my own volition from nowhere, I applied for confirmation class. But when they announced the results, Baba will pass.
credit you too.
Baba will pass. But the Reverend said something. He said, there is something in you. There's a burning thing in you, but you are limited. So we will allow you to go. But if the bishop asks a question and you can't answer properly, that's it. No more confirmation for you.
Pass you on trial.
But the bishop was so carried away when little he saw me with primary school and secondary school children with my white agbada. I didn't look at his face. I was I didn't want to catch his attention. So I was deep in prayer. So he just blessed me and water, and then off I went. Then I did the victory sign.
So what exactly is
let me finish.
Okay.
Then God tested me after. I'll never forget this. I had a terrible sickness that was not diagnosed. It's called metalloblastic anemia. The final cure to it is vitamin B12 injection, which costs on the average, if you go to any chemist, you get for say 100 or 120 naira. But before that led to it, I had passed out a few times. I was white, I was everything. And everybody went into the panic. I remember way back then, somebody came and said, this is a test of God. If God wants to take me away after this. And I was so confident. I don't know where the confidence came from. And I survived it. I never knew I would survive it. Everybody had thought that this is the end of Jimi Disu. But I don't say Jimi Disu just started. It was a test. And I'm glad I stood. There's a part of me that most people don't know. Everybody thinks I'm a rascal and this. So when I hear people say that I'm a man of God, God is in me, I just look at them and laugh. Is God not in me?
You know the funny thing, I just checked my Twitter handle now. One guy says, why you always beefing Igbobians? I think you've answered that question.
Yes.
Secondly, there's another guy that's, really waxing so lyrical about you. Is it unveiling yourself? Then let's see, because you are a very complex person. Most people don't know that, but you, from my own interaction with you,
you are complex. But how?
A complex one. But what you've done today, and I'm really grateful to be here at the studio, because that's one of the reasons I didn't want to listen. I wanted to sit in
and watch me
and watch you, watch your reactions to questions. You've actually allowed us, through the very pertinent questions from Kemi and Joseph, allowed us, dare I say, window into your soul. And even the testimony, because what you just did now, you gave a testimony as to your, serving or worshipping God is not a public thing. At the end of the day,
apart from that,
it's us, inside us.
Apart from that, let me be honest with you. I'm not being cocky or anything. I don't like doing things to fulfill all righteousness. If my heart is not in it, so be it. I'm sorry, I don't go to church in Nigeria. It's not a how would I put it?
Elitist thing.
No, I remember that I used to go to one church, one Pentecostal church, because I kept seeking. I tried to go to one because first of all, I'm not into these general shekarimi, wasting time when you know that nothing is. You understand what it is? I'm a very, very practical person. When you go to church and you take so much time talking about the birthday people, 2 hours, 3 hours, you're at a place, my concentration span cannot handle it. Secondly, I don't like anything noisy at all. So going to church and opening up your mouth and shout, I can't. I don't. I've always known that when you want to pray, you go in supplication to God quietly. The church I attend in England, if a piece of paper, I'm not kidding, drops within that 45 minutes we are doing communion, you will hear total submission to God in silence and reverence. That is the way I understand. I'm not going to argue with anybody on that fact. And that is why I've been to churches quite regularly a few times. There was one I used to go, Pentecostal church in Ikoyi. I enjoyed myself thoroughly. Then one day I sat back, I said, how come every time I go to this church, I get a feeling I'm just coming back from the shrine? Then I realized it's the music. The guy who blew the sax, the guy who blew the drums. So the church I go to, 45 minutes, I'm out. Communion.
Okay, we've talked about church, and all of that. What's your problem with religious involvement in politics?
What's my problem?
Yeah, what's your problem?
It's a problem.
How is it a problem?
What's your beef?
My beef is that, first of all, I believe that religion is a private matter. Secondly, I believe that the new thing in Nigeria is to manipulate people. Use all kinds of things. Either to say you are talking on behalf of the Yoruba people, you are doing this. Everybody now wants to get a piece of the pie. It was never like that.
So you think religion should be totally separate from
it should be separate from if something is going the way it shouldn't be going, you can come out and make a definitive statement and leave it at that.
But in the Bible, even the good book, the Bible, religion and politics were one, because the prophets always anointed and appointed the kings.
The kings.
Well, what were the ones? What were the kind of prophets? Are they the same prophets we have now?
Prophet is prophet. Men of God are men of God. Are you saying we have different kinds of men of God now?
Even if you are going to get involved in politics, surely it must be in a neutral manner.
True.
So are you saying it's an issue of credibility?
Apart from credibility, I'm not saying the church shouldn't go mosque. Let's quickly answer that one. For balance,
mosque,
shouldn't get
religion,
but it should be as a guiding. You understand, the country is drifting.
That's the word.
And then you put them back on the straight and narrow, not to get involved in the nitty-gritty of the politics, because what it does is that it confuses the people, it expands the divide.
Yes.
If, for example, you find, like I'm sorry, I'm just using this as an example. Some of the Muslims in the north might be thinking that probably don't, one or two statements they had made against Buhari is because he's a northern, you can't move forward in that kind of dispensation.
Yeah.
So it's not I'm saying that they shouldn't be totally involved. No. But in a
guiding.
Guiding. Say, Mr. President, the country is drifting. Do the best that you can.
With the voice of conscience.
Not what I read when a member of the Anglican Communion was saying in the papers that Buhari shouldn't run because of his age and his whatever it was. That wasn't nice.
But sorry, George, can I just jump in with this? But there are instances where religious leaders, I think Archbishop Okoje and Reverend Baka if memory serves, have stood up and made progressive pronouncements. I still believe that they should have exercised a bit of discretion and caution. And there's the last arbiter.
and therefore they need to be careful. They need to be careful. Much as it sounds like music to my ears, something deep down tells me that because there's no monopoly of these things. That's what I want you to know. Supposing as Koji on Baka, then some chief imam from somewhere too now came up and said the same thing. Where would we be? We were lucky then because we also had a Christian president whose closest ally was the president of Khan.
We're rushing now because we need to take calls.
We're
going to take calls. Some tweets here. Omodolapo on Twitter is saying, Jimmy, that your confirmation was a form of corruption.
Confirmation of what?
It's your
confirmation since you didn't pass.
You didn't pass. Yeah. And you now avoided.
No, let me rephrase. No, this is the way I should have said it. I didn't hit the pass mark.
We're saying the same thing.
But they let me go. I mean, is it my fault?
It is corruption. You should have stood against.
I think they saw his heart.
Now, are they good? It's only God.
And it's truth. The truth is confirmation should really not be about. It should not be about what is written. Yeah, it should be about the standing of the person.
The truth of the matter is that the process was such that it was to confirm the written. There's the written and the oral. Are you with me? The man said that the fact that I used to come every day where I'm supposed to come and sit with people who are my children's age, and on the day of the examination, I pretended that I was writing something.
Now, several people have asked on Twitter.
Yes.
What's your marital status? You never talk about it.
I don't let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Seriously, I'm the one who decided to be a public person.
Not anybody else.
Not anybody else, and so I keep. It's just fair. So don't even go there.
Okay, Uncle Jimmy, if you were president today.
I can't be president.
If you were, let's assume. If you were to change something in Nigeria, what is the one thing that you will start with?
If I was to change something in Nigeria,
yes, the Nigeria of today that we have.
Okay. Let me even say if I was the president, the first thing I will attack is education. In a rush. Education, health. In a rush. You see, because that's the foundation. If you are tackling other things, it's like building a story building from the top instead of from the bottom. Education, health to keep people alive. Education. If you face education for 5 years, you'll be amazed that a new generation.
In your opinion, what is wrong with our education right now?
It's zero.
Where does it start?
Do you know where the problem starts? Go and look at the papers El-Rufai showed from people who are the teachers who are supposed to be in Kaduna. Then you know how bad it is.
And then add the Edo people too.
Add the Edo people. Fire me too in Ekiti.
Fire me too in Ekiti.
Education would be it's the foundation. It is slow to be seen. You see, the problem with most of our political leaders is they want something to show for what they have done because they are not sincere in their hearts. They're always looking at the next election. You understand what I'm saying? So what they quickly do is put up things that will dazzle everybody. You understand? And that will get you nowhere.
Well,
yes.
I feel that it's been a deliberate effort.
It's also, yes,
it's deliberate to destroy education. It's been deliberate by successive governments.
Some people feel that you're a Buhari apologist. Where do you really stand?
First of all, it's who I vote for is my private whatever. Just like I wouldn't ask, but who is a private matter. But let me tell you, in all honesty, that when I saw the way Jonathan was going, I knew that we needed an alternative. I have no apologies for that. So the only person available was Buhari. Whether he has now done well or not is another matter. So I'm not a Buhari. I'm not anybody's apologies. Are they feeding me? If I wanted to be somebody's apologies, you don't know where for day. I hear people don't know some of the things that have been offered to people like us, and I'm not interested. I'm not anybody's apologies, but the truth must always be told. Okay? And I'm not one journalist who will say he wants to be neutral in all matters. In some matters you cannot afford. In the last dispensation, you cannot afford. That has been established internationally, that journalists cannot afford to be completely neutral. Were they neutral in the time of Trump? When Trump emerged, don't you know that there were newspapers who even wrote editorials that they are endorsing? So the role of the press has changed. You can't afford to be completely neutral. Now, in this new dispensation, because you must have a president in 2019.
Definitely.
Of all those who have come out, which one can match?
How many have come out?
About 5 or 6.
Once they have no parties, they have not come out. Once they don't have parties yet.
You see,
so
we are in a dilemma. It would have been nice if we had a robust alternative. Then we'd sit back and do analysis and say, let's be neutral. Some of them don't even know what they are talking about. But they don't know the issues of. They think that issue of presidency is akin to issue of running a local government. How many of them can pick up their phones and call if there's a crisis and call the Esunupe or call the So there's more to it than what we hear being a president.
All right, quickly let's start taking some calls. Lagos Talks 91.3. Good morning.
Morning.
Hello, Uncle Jimmy.
Yes,
Good
sir.
morning.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
Happy weekend, sir.
Who is this?
Na Conrela Pande Toko. Good morning, Mr. Shegun, the sportman.
Yes, good morning, comrade. How are you?
Comrade, where have you been?
Sir, I've been trying. Let me greet the lady in the house.
Good morning, comrade.
Gender, I beg.
Good morning, comrade.
Good morning, ma. Uncle Jimmy, I called that day you brought in the bomb and I couldn't. That was last week. Tuesday, or thereabouts. And I couldn't get through. But today I just called to wish you happy, weekend. I don't want to talk politics with you.
No, don't talk.
There's no room for that today.
Don't talk about Akpabio or anybody.
Leave Akpabio with his Akpabioism.
Comrade, do you have a question for Uncle Jimmy?
No, I don't think so. What the man has been doing has convinced me that he's a true Nigerian. Even though he's a Yoruba-born Nigerian, but he doesn't, toe that line. He balanced everything. I've not met him before, but he's only hearing his voice. He's a man I respect so much, honestly speaking, and that's why I'm convinced that even if this man is not an ordained pastor, but the job he's doing, many pastors in this country are not doing. I listened to him, one church pastor, telling Buhari is old. And let me put it to that pastor, whether in many different religious platforms, whether we don't have pastors who doesn't want to relinquish, go to retirement at the age of 80, and they are still holding on the pulpit, even when the microphone is shaking in their hand, and he doesn't want to let go. And these are the people telling Buhari is older. So who is older? Who is deceiving who? So my dear brother, that is the country we are. I just called to wish you happy weekend.
Thank you very much, comrade.
Thank you. Lagos Talks 91.3. Good morning.
I greet everybody in the house.
Good morning.
What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
Let us notify.
My name has not changed.
God has answered my prayer.
Lagos Talks 91.3.
Good morning. My name is Samuel.
Samuel, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Charity, no Shodi.
Okay. Do you have any question for Uncle Jimmy?
Please, I want to talk to Jimmy. Jimmy.
Yes.
You said they asked you a question about Buhari, the government and everything. I don't think you know what people are feeling about Buhari. People are hungry. Things are very, very difficult. I don't think Buhari is an option to 2019. You better think about.
Sorry. Well, look, listen. People are entitled to their opinion of Buhari, and they might jolly well be justified. Okay. My major worry is that for those who feel that they wouldn't want Buhari in 2019, who do they now have? That is where the problem lies for me. I would love, honest to God, the kind of election you would have between, say, a McCain way back then and Obama.
Yeah.
Even a Hillary Clinton but it's so lopsided from those we have seen, and there's more to and it's so that some people are also impatient. And I'm not making a case for him, but it's not, the turnaround of Nigeria is not going to happen immediately. Some people believe that once they voted for Buhari, he would lock everybody up and then the rate will come down and jobs will spring up and so on and so forth. It's a big fight.
Yeah,
it's
a big fight. Democracy.
And the one thing I'd rather not do is go back to where I'm coming from. That is what Nigeria has to be careful about.
Okay. Hello, good morning.
Lagos Talks 91.3. Good morning.
Okay,
good morning. Who's your name?
To you.
Okay. What, do you have a question for Uncle Jimmy quickly?
My name is Kweli from Amuodo.
Okay.
He spoke very well. What I just want to say about our religious leader. If you want to form a party, it's better to form a party. If you want to form a party, you stay in your place and talk to your congregation. The problem of facing this country today, if we do away with religious sentiment, tribal sentiment, then you move forward. But what we still believe that I'm a Christian, you are a Muslim, we must do my life, I must do your life. No, we must be a Nigeria who is ready to die for this country. That is my home, and especially the current president to be extra careful the way he talks, because in this country today, if it Dasuki and if the sort of Sokoto, the school council for Islamic Affairs as the leader, if he told the way the council talk, Nigeria will be on fire. So for me, let the leader of religious body speak to their congregation, whether they like it or not. One person must rule this country. It can be a Muslim, it can be a Christian. We can't have two presidents at a time. So for me, let us fight for this country. Let us marry one thing. That one thing is love. But to love your fellow human being, everything goes accordingly. Number one.
Thank you.
If you are not the same religion, if you are not the same tribe,
thank
you are the same human.
Sorry, thank you for your call.
Okay.
And well,
we have to knock it off.
We have to knock it off. But before we knock it off, we don't have time. How do you relax? Okay.
We don't have time. we don't have time.
Okay,
somebody already asked on Twitter that we must have a part 2 of this.
No, not immediately.
Not immediately. Not now. But me and you,
in another 2 years.
No, not in this.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Uncle Jimmy, for giving us your seats.
Okay.
This morning.
Thank you very much, Kemi Ashekun and Jojo, the werewolf. I call him the werewolf. I'm sure he wishes he could go on for another hour. But the fisherman, look at the way the fisherman is going like a pendulum. He's eager to come on. That's how we'll end it up for today. Agbede, sorry. I was so happy when that Kelvin call was lost. I said, the Lord that I serve will always protect me.
He was winding up to ask.
It was winding out. So that's where we'll end it for today. Thank you very much, Fisherman. And so we'll meet again. I have to get out of here quickly. We'll meet again, hopefully, next week Tuesday, God willing. Bye.